Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Egbon Podcast, where we have candid conversations with migrants or children of migrants who are doing very well in their careers in the hopes to inspire the next generation of dreamers. Today, we are joined by the incredible Jody Appiah. Now, everyone is talking about AI, and I figured that we need to have someone in the house who actually does this. Jody is an incredible entrepreneur, and he's done so many things, music, and worked in the corporate world for many years. But he owns now his own automation business focused on AI called GoFull Automation, where he streamlines operations for businesses and helps them save money and generate millions in the process. Thank you so much, Jody, for coming.
That's my pleasure. That's a really good summary, man.
Before we continue with this incredible conversation, I would kindly ask you to like and subscribe. It's important for the channel to grow, so please do it.
So, GoFull Automation, AI automation business. How did you get into it?
Oh man, that is a long story. So let me take you back a bit. It all started with a conversation that I had with my mentor back at my former employer, where he brought me on as a business analyst, right? Doing Salesforce implementation for my previous employer. Then from that, I got to be a Salesforce developer. And that's when I was suffering from severe imposter syndrome because everybody was like super smart and everything, software engineering degrees. And I just come in like a business guy. Then I realized, hey, I have the business skills and I kind of have the tech skills now. So maybe I can leverage that, chatting with AI a bit and do it on my own and deliver value for customers on my own. So that's what I started doing when I joined Maker School. So that's Nick's community, and that's how we got to know one another. Joined that community. Shout out to Nick, yeah. Joined that community December 19th and kind of took off from there.
So yeah, it's incredible. So you started your business, GoFull Automation. You've scaled it to about 18 to 20K a month now. And the kicker is like 95% of that is yours, which is incredible. Proud son of Ghanaian.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're Swiss Ghanaian. That's incredible. So now I just want you to kind of talk more about just the state of AI and all the tools that you kind of use to do what you do. So why is everyone talking about AI right now? And how are you able to kind of leverage those skills to do so well for yourself and to help
that's a really good question. Why is everybody talking about AI? I feel that is because they feel that you can delegate so much to it and increase your productivity. Yes, it's true, but you need to know what to feed into it, right? As they say, garbage in, garbage out. Right. So if you feed it, crap prompts, you're gonna get crap data out of it. So where I come in is asking the right questions, either to the stakeholders or at least for my own business, so that it can guide me for the implementation. That's number one. Number two is it accelerates processes that we weren't able to do before. The main example is you need to summarize a PDF, you upload it, and it summarizes it for you, providing that, again, you give it a good enough prompt. So combining that with automation increases your leverage tenfold, and that's why I'm able to take home literally 95%. Because I know the questions to ask to get the right answers that will lead me in the right direction.
And what kind of services you provide to your businesses?
All sorts, literally from click to close, anything from marketing to sales motion, to onboarding, to implementing bespoke CRMs. Onboarding I mentioned, and then also offboarding. And that can be anything from, form design to simplifying the creation of project management systems. And it's across all different verticals. Few clients that come to mind are, again, my previous, in the same vertical as my previous employer. So that would be in the academic publishing industry, but also solopreneur recruiters in the sports world. So that has been a very fun process to learn. Also private equity, content creators also. So everything like
that's incredible. What kind of tools would you say you kind of use in your
So in the community, Nick's community, he gives a big shout out to starting with mig.com. So that is a no code development tool where it's literally you drag and drop modules and then you move data across the pipeline and then put it in the final destination. That is literally the bread and butter of everything, and it's the glue system that puts everything together. And what I grew up doing, so literally since 2017, is Notion. And that's what I did privately because I saw a YouTube video about it and I got hooked immediately. And it's grown so much since they got webhooks a couple years ago, and just a month ago, it was Notion 3.0, which now allows us to have bespoke and native client portals within Notion, which opens up the entire world. So my main offering so far has been Notion, but because I have through Salesforce also with my previous employer, I have the skills to learn other tools like ClickUp, Asana, and implement those, because it's just reading the API documentation, which is literally, okay, this is what I want to do. I have to send it to this URL, and boom, my data is moving there.
Yeah.
And that's at a higher level, everything.
Yeah. Now, if someone is still very skeptical about how AI can really help their businesses, you know, so what are a couple of things that you can, a couple of questions you can ask them, or a couple of ways that you can actually literally?
I would try to understand where that skepticism is. And if I'm trying to sign them on as a client, of course, I would be like, hey, I can do this for free. You know, no problem. If you like it, we implement it. If you don't, we move on.
Right.
And also, most often, rather than not, what they're worried about is data privacy.
Right.
So, and that's something that I care about very deeply also. So I tend to feed it, at least for my own business, I always feed it information that is not conducive, or that is proprietary information to my business, basically.
Right.
That's what I kind of tend to do. So for private equity, for example, we tend to mask the data when we send PDFs for information memorandums. That's literally what I'm offering now in my lead magnet through cold email. It's like they can use either old ones or get it from an aggregator website, and they see the results before they implement it for themselves. So that's one example.
What has been one of the challenges for you starting your own automation business? Because I think a lot of people feel a bit overwhelmed with the technology and with everything that's happening, and it's all happening so fast as well.
Yeah, there's two things. It's imposter syndrome. Actually, let me start even before that, is getting your foot into the door, right? What I mean by that is, can I even get my first client? And again, that's the whole Nix community thing where, you know, you go from 0 to 1 and you have that playbook. Without that, I wouldn't have taken the job.
Right.
Also, it's juggling a full-time job versus, you know, trying to start your own thing. And when do you go full-time? Right. That's one aspect. And then it's imposter syndrome in terms of when you get your first client, oh, can I actually deliver?
Yeah.
Can I actually deliver? But for that, you know, with YouTube, there's infinite content on YouTube.
Right.
There is AI also. Like, it's almost impossible to not get the answer, because also navigating through the forums, someone has solved that problem before in a different context.
Based on what you're seeing, and because everything is moving so rapidly, where do you think all this is going? And how do you think this is going to fundamentally change the way just society works? Because the tools are incredible, and everything is happening so fast, and it keeps moving so fast, and it's so accessible to everyone that I feel like there are jobs that used to require 3, 4, or 5 people to do that you literally can do on your own, or literally can just do like with a click of a mouse. So how do you think that's going to change, first of all, the workforce in general, but also how the future of work, you know?
Yeah. It's a really good question. I think about it a lot, especially for myself, right? Because what I enjoy doing, a bit of both. And what I mean by a bit of both is getting to understand the business and architecting the solution. That's number one. And number two is actually doing the implementation. When I was working with, honestly, some of the best developers, probably in the Salesforce industry, hands down, it was about learning the concept of coding. And I 100% agree with that. Because when AI gives me the answer, I can now read through it and be like, no, this is BS, this is not the right way to do it. But it's because I have that theory, but not necessarily the user experience that they have, right? So I think having a baseline of knowledge is necessary, so that you know what you're talking about. It can siphon through the BS that AI tells you, because it's always going to tell you that you're right, you know, most of the time. So that is number one. And then number two is always being willing to upskill, otherwise you will get left behind. And I'm also saying that to myself, because I know that I love doing the implementation, but very soon I won't need to do it, and I won't have to do it. So the real added value is asking the right questions to understand the business, so that we can then leverage AI, or they can leverage AI to do the implementation.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I guess it goes along with imposter syndrome, but also just limiting beliefs, right? Because there's this idea that it's nearly impossible to make 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 a month. You know, you have people like Nick making 400,000 a month, but that's another thing. But how do you as an individual, as a small business, how are you actually able to get companies to say, here's 30,000, here's 40,000 for your service, you know?
So I'm not there yet at 30,000 for one particular service, but it started off small, man. I started on Upwork. So I got my first gig was $20 an hour. And that ended up bringing in $800 over a few months, because it was so, you know, like the pay is so low. Second gig was $10. But then the third one was 10x that. So it was $100, you know? And in terms of lifetime value, that has increased to now like $600-700. because it's showing up, doing the good work, at least in terms of what you deliver. But what goes on behind the scenes is a lot of research, a lot of hours, and is putting in that due diligence. Right? So for this most recent client that I was telling you about right before we started recording, it was actually years of work that I put in with my previous employer during COVID, right? And putting in that good work, let a former colleague refer me to now this new company because I have both the subject matter expertise and the Salesforce knowledge, right, to do the implementation. So yeah, it's just not being shy to put in the work, doing work for free. I'm a huge advocate of that. That was a limiting belief that I had actually. It's like, yeah, but I have these skills. Why should I do work for free? And actually you make so much more money so much quicker when you do work for free, because then it lowers the risk for you to show them value, and then they're willing to pay you whatever, because like I can't imagine trying to change because you know your stuff.
Yeah, you already have your foot in the door.
Exactly.
Yeah, they can trust you. Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, so let's let's talk about where do you see GoFull Automation going for the next 2 years with how fast everything is moving, and also just the technology as well. What do you foresee people being able to do in 6 months or a year or 2 years?
Yeah, I'll give you my flat out answer. I literally gave myself 2 years to figure out whether or not I can make a single dollar from GoFull Automation. So I've knocked that out of the park. I haven't actually thought what it's going to look like in 2 years' time. So now that I'm at 20, there's no reason why I can't at least double within the next year.
Right.
Genuinely no reason why. And once I get that double, I think I can start hiring, either contractors or full-time employees helping me out. So ideally, it would be going back to what I said, getting a team of developers to help me with the implementation, because I am not the best Salesforce developer, actually. I'm not even that good at it. I can parse through, but I don't enjoy necessarily writing the code, right? And if I can leverage my time to talk with businesses and keep on doing that, I'm more than happy to do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, $20K a month is not bad, baby. You know what
I'm
saying?
saying? 100%. If we can get it to 80 in 2 years, that would be even better,
Oh, 8. I'm sure you'll get there.
Thanks,
for sure. You got into this, but before this, you worked for Salesforce. How did that come about? Oh, should we just start from the beginning?
Yeah.
So yes, start from the beginning. So you were born in Switzerland. Your parents are from Ghana.
Exactly.
How was that experience growing up in a Ghanaian household and living in Switzerland?
It is full of banter.
Yeah.
Because my parents they were so serious raising us, making sure that we have Christian values, grow up morally correct and all these things. But now that I'm grown up, I see that they're the biggest kids ever,
Right.
and they're enjoying retirement. And I have 2 little sisters also that I hold so dear to my heart. They are the funniest people in the world to me. So that's why my answer is banter, because it was just so much fun.
Yeah.
That's number one. I could go on for hours just talking about them, but I know we need to
no. Go ahead. What is it like in a Ghanaian household? What is it?
What's it like?
What are the smells? What the music you listen to growing up?
Okay. So lots of high life, and then it became Afro beats, and then I kind of stopped listening to music after Afro beats. So this is after uni, after undergrad here in Essex. We're in London, but you know.
Yeah.
Growing up, it was plantain, wache, fufu on Sundays, and then pancakes with my childhood friend also, where we would go to each other's houses. And lots of gospel music. My mom loves gospel music. She loves hymns also, and that is like my first memory. And we're going to talk about music later for sure. But yeah, I just want to mention those Ron Pinoli tapes of Chester Thompson on the drums for God is Able VHS, imprinted in my brain.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's so good. And did you get to travel to Ghana yourself?
100%. Yeah, we went back every couple years just because thanks to my parents' line of work, we had that blessing that we could go back every couple of years to visit grandparents, cousins, and all that good stuff.
So how did you navigate your Ghanaian heritage with your Swiss heritage?
That's a good question. Growing up, not so well. I kind of shun it because I don't speak. I understand like elementary school, and I always felt like what is necessarily my home country. Now that I'm an adult, I realized that was the wrong way to see things because my parents are very proud of us, and they're very happy for us to get to know where we truly come from. And so I hold that near and dear to my heart now, especially now that I have my own daughter who, since I don't speak any Fanti or Tree, she has to learn everything through her grandparents, you know. And the great thing is that my parents are, you know, living there at least for some part of the year. So we do plan on visiting them so that she can, you know, get more of that culture and it doesn't die through me now passing it to her because of, you know, childhood misinterpretations. I think that would be a missed opportunity.
Yeah. What is it like growing up in Switzerland?
There's Switzerland and then there's Geneva.
Okay.
And what that means is the Swiss people don't think that Geneva is part of Switzerland, but also since it's bordering France, the French don't necessarily think that Geneva is like France, even though a lot of the French people come to Geneva to work because money's good over there, right? And also I grew up in an international school. So honestly, races and, you know, languages are just part of my everyday thing.
Right.
Like if someone is outside speaking, you know, Mandarin, then another person is speaking Croatian, that's totally normal to me.
Right.
Then when I moved to Bern in 2017, so this is after uni and after postgrad, that's when I realized like, oh yeah, Geneva is actually truly different. Like it's a real international hub. So I want to say that it was sheltered, but still opened a lot of doors for me because of the intercultural environments that allowed me to, you know, understand and appreciate different cultures.
So then you fell in love with music early on. What kind of music did you fall in love with, and what did you eventually get into?
Hey, if my sisters were here, they would say everything. Like there's gospel, there's jazz, there is punk rock. Honestly, like now that I'm in London, I just want to go to Hyde Park because I have vivid memories of listening to the Red Hot Chili Peppers Live in Hyde Park album. And I just want to see like what it was like being there in the 90s and just imagine myself, right? So all sorts of music. Now what my sisters call elevator music also. That is not necessarily jazz. And all of that, translates through mostly drums, but also bass guitar. But in terms of the gigs that I did was with my childhood friends, where we formed a band, but also playing locally for my church.
What kind of band was it?
It was a pop rock band, rock band, yeah. But we also wrote some of it. When I say we, I mean the main guitarist wrote songs and we just jammed them.
Yeah. That's cool. And then you eventually tried to follow music for a bit. Yeah.
I did. So we were gigging we were gigging professionally for a while. And that was kind of like my first business venture actually, because I was like, hey guys, we have this money coming in. If we want to play in bigger venues, we're going to need better speakers, you know, better amps and all these things. So I was kind of like the business mind behind it, and we grew it, and I'm happy that we did, because, you know, it got us to play on some fairly big stages at least.
Where did you play?
Where did we play?
Yeah.
So Parc des Bastions for Fête de la Musique. So that is a university campus basically, and it happens every summer. Mid-June. So yeah, there was like 500 people in the crowd. And also with the gospel band, it was a 24-hour service that was recorded, and it was playing for the kids, but that was recorded live, and I even believe that it's on YouTube. That was one of the best gigs that I've played. So.
Yeah, so one of your funnest memories.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then when did the switch happen? Because I know at some point you wanted to get a PhD.
Yeah. Oh, when the switch happened from musician to... Okay, so this was when I was still living with my parents. So this is before I moved out in 2017, right? Okay. And I was also doing teaching, tutoring, and I also wrote and directed a school play for kids. That was a whole other part of my life.
Oh, we can talk about it. I love kid stories. So what was the story about? What was that?
Ooh, what was the story about?
Yeah.
Honestly, it was an amalgamation of everything. Okay. Of Star Wars, Harry Potter, Mario Kart, Princess Peach. And this is because I wrote the story with the kids, right? Oh, okay. So we sat down in class, and maybe a bit of context. This is for ESL, English second language, right? So the kids didn't know how to speak English, and yet they had to perform a 45-minute play in front of their parents at the end of the year. Right. And I was like, okay, if they're going to learn English, it has to be something that they want to talk about, right? So I sat them down and they told me what they wanted to happen. And I just put the script together based off of what they wanted. So it ended with the parents giving us a standing ovation. Yeah. And they came to me at the end and they're like, Jody, you know, I love the play. I could see my kid had so much fun, but I have no idea what the story was about. That was honestly a great memory also, because I literally wasn't expecting it. Yeah. But one great memory was I was in the coulisses, so in the behind the scenes. Yeah. And a kid finished a part that he was struggling with, honestly, until the very last moment. he nailed it and he came, Jody, I nailed it. I didn't make a mistake. And I was like, yeah, man, you got it, but be ready to go back out again.
Yeah, no, kids are really fun.
Yeah.
I also write children's books, so I love that.
Oh, okay. We should talk about that more. Off mic.
Sure. So then the switch.
The switch, yes,
yeah.
that was the actual question.
Mm-hmm.
So it's when I wanted to get serious and, start my career.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to maybe try out for a PhD because I wasn't getting anything in industry. So my background is biochemistry. That's what I studied here for my undergrad and also in Geneva for my master's. So I decided, let me go try out this PhD. And I also moved in with my childhood best friend, and that was great. But after a year, I realized that it wasn't for me, and quitting was the best decision of my life. The best. Even though my parents were, I think, a bit worried because it was a paying job and I was pretty decent at it, but it just wasn't fulfilling me,
How do you follow such a gut instinct? Because it's such a big decision to make. I mean, because I think a lot of people struggle with making those kind of decisions. You're looking at a career that is going to be fulfilling and you're going to potentially make some good money. How do you decide to not do that and then to just do the other thing that's very scary?
I projected myself forward 2 years and 5 years down the line, and I was like, I don't want to be doing experiments all day, every day.
Right.
Like, it just doesn't fulfill me at all. Like, I could do it, but I really didn't enjoy it. And so I didn't want to have to do a job that I had to do and that would make me miserable, because I knew that would affect my relationship.
Right. Absolutely. So then you switched into...
So I was unemployed for 3 months, and then I worked in an adjacent field, which is academic publishing.
Right.
And it was basically operations where, a bit of context, you submit a paper to a publisher and it goes through the peer review process, right? So you have to get editors and reviewers and make sure there's no delays, and make sure that the scientific content is up to par so that we can publish it. So I was in charge of that operational process, right?
Okay, cool. And then when did Salesforce come into play?
3-4 years down the line where I really polished my chops. So a bit of a background before we get into the Salesforce. I started off as an individual contributor, as an intern, and then full-time employee. Then got good enough where I started managing a team of 14. So I did that for a year, and it was honestly through hyper growth. And we moved to Salesforce, I think 2 years into the job. And I fell in love with it, like genuinely, because it solved so many problems that I didn't even realize that we had. In terms of visualizing the number of emails that come in, categorizing them, how long it takes for us to respond to them. And so I was doing everything in Excel, and that was just a pain extracting, but also distribution was a big problem. And Salesforce solved all of those problems. So I kind of just went knee deep into the technology, so much so that I studied for the Salesforce admin certification for fun. I say for fun, it took me 80 hours to pass it, but honestly, it was the most difficult 80 hours of my life, because sometimes I'll just be looking at the timer like, do I have to read another question? Is the 2 hours not up yet? And I failed the first time. The second time I was successful, and through conversation, the business analyst was leaving, and I mentioned that to my former manager at the time, and it got me to that conversation that I had with my mentor. And so I was able to move to that team and start off as a business analyst.
Nice. That's good. And then you did that for about 7 years or something?
No, so I was for 7 years at my previous employer. Okay. But I did Salesforce implementations for 3 years. Nice. So 2 years as a business analyst and then 1 year as a developer.
Great. Yeah. Now GoFull Automation.
And now it's GoFull Automation.
It's brilliant. So what advice would you give? Because you've worked in so many different industries, and you've always managed to get on top and to excel at what you do. So what advice would you give a young migrant or a young child of a migrant that is trying to tackle a new industry or trying to tackle just this new world, with all these possibilities that seem endless?
I want to start with advice that my dad gave me. And it was just a passing comment that he mentioned, but I've never forgotten it. It's find someone that you can peg yourself to so that when they move up, they move you up along with them. So kind of make yourself indispensable, and just develop a skill, make sure that you excel at it so that you are recognized for it. And for me, it started with Excel and then Salesforce. That is number one. Number two is cut out all of the noise. Really focus on the one or two things that you feel are gonna make you successful. Because it's really only just one or two things. In terms of all the success that I've seen, it is spending the 80 hours on Salesforce. It is learning Notion. It's learning N8N. And the other thing that I would say is joining communities. And what I mean by that is you put money where your mouth is, right? So I paid out of my own pocket to learn Salesforce. I didn't ask my employer to do that. I paid out of my own pocket to join a community to learn how to be a business analyst, because before that, I had never even seen a process map before, right? And then I was, a couple years later, building process maps in real time with my stakeholders. But Jody from a year ago would have never imagined that I'd be able to do that.
Right.
But just through time and effort, I was able to just internalize those skills where it became second nature. So yeah, it's really cutting out all of the noise. And if you can't distinguish between signal and noise, find someone that you admire, ask them, for 30 minutes of their time, bombard them with questions, and then you will have more clarity. So that's kind of what I am doing now that I have, some financial success in the business. It's reinvesting in the business by talking to people who are 2 steps ahead of me, and because that's what I can afford right now. But the next step is 10 steps ahead of me. So that's going to come at a bigger price point in terms of investment, but in terms of return, that's going to pay off dividends in 5 years.
Right. When you say cut out the noise, I want you to help people clarify what that means. So what's a general noise that people have? It's
really good that we circle back on this point, because it's very nondescript.
Yeah.
So you can go down a YouTube rabbit hole to understand all of the key elements that drive success. You have to prioritize them and be like, this is the number one thing that is going to make me successful. Everything else is noise. That one thing is going to lead you to success. That is the main signal you need to follow. And just compound as many metrics as possible to measure that. So to come back to the example that I was giving in terms of my Salesforce studying, the 80 hours, it was literally looking at a timer saying, okay, during the week, there's going to be 1.5 hours in terms of me doing practice exams or going in Salesforce and doing the clicks so that I can get experience. And then on weekends, 2.5 hours. I am not stopping until I do that before the morning ends. That was my signal. Everything else was noise. YouTube tutorials about Salesforce was noise. Reading LinkedIn posts about Salesforce releases was noise. It was around the area, but it wasn't the main thing that was going to make me successful. So that is the main example that I can give, at least at top of mind right now, in terms of minimizing the noise and focusing on the one thing that's going to make you successful.
Nice. Was there something else that you would also advise?
And also, because it's advice that I give myself also,
Right.
So it's, don't doubt yourself. Like, honestly, don't doubt yourself, and don't be put down by anybody that feels that you're being ridiculous, And that may come from the people that you love the most.
Yes.
I'm very thankful that hasn't happened to me. Like, my parents, my sisters, my wife have been very supportive, and also extended family. But I know that sometimes you hear comments that you may take the wrong way. And the way that I see it is, oh, I'm just living a life that they are not, that they don't want to, that they can't imagine living.
Right.
Or it could be a bit worse than that, where they don't want me to be successful because they are not even willing to put in the work that I'm willing to put in, right? But what makes me happy is not necessarily what makes you happy. So, do you boo-boo kind of thing,
That's funny. Yeah, it's true. And as you continue to move forward, you said, I know you mentioned continue to reinvest in the business and reinvest to upscale. But what keeps you going? What keeps you motivated?
This may be a bit of a hot take, but I think motivation is kind of BS.
Okay.
In terms of the half-life for motivation is very short.
Okay.
So it's a very short fuse, right? One day I can be motivated, the next it could be completely gone. Right. And again, back to the Salesforce example, but maybe I can give another one, right?
Yeah.
Again, I love drugs. Like, if I could do one thing all day, every day, it would be drugs. It's actually a really funny story. But I bought a book that motivated me to practice my technique, my fluidity around the kit. And it was literally sitting there in my room for 45 minutes before I took my bike and went to uni. And it was just hitting a practice pad like this for 45 minutes. Really focusing on my fingers, holding the sticks as light as a feather, right? And all that to say, it's literally just putting in that time that got me to be successful. But when my mother saw me do that, she literally thought that I lost my mind, that I literally lost my mind. So yeah, it's just keeping the focus and keeping the main thing.
Right. Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, so this is really interesting. So I wanted to. Was there something in particular that you want to talk about?
I was enjoying the question line, so
Yeah, I know.
I was enjoying the line of questioning. If any question comes to mind, just shoot it. But because I'm happy to talk about anything. Yes. Okay, we can come back to the question of motivation because I didn't finish answering that actually.
Yeah. Okay.
So what keeps me motivated? Because I was saying that motivation, I think, is kind of BS. Like it gets you started, but it doesn't keep you going. And neither does anger, for example.
Right.
Like you can do things out of anger, but it's for a short amount of time. Anytime you hit a roadblock, like you want to stop. Right. And that's where motivation ends also. So an emotional driver for me is not good enough to actually be successful. It's doing the things despite your feelings, right? So for me, it's literally front loading everything in the morning because that's when my brain is the most fresh, right? Okay. Whether it's the gym, whether it's the number of Upwork applications, whether that is fulfillment for particular clients because we have a big meeting coming up in a week and I need to have, everything tested end to end and it has to be, ironclad. All of that I front loaded in the morning, my number one priority, because then in the afternoon, it's almost a write-off, right? Right. So those 4 hours that I have in the morning are worth more than the 8 hours that I have for the rest of the day, just because I know that I'm fully locked in, right? So yeah, and that's just me personally. Like I can't just go off of my motivation because that can go in a heartbeat. So what actually keeps me motivated if we are to actually truly answer the question, it's my family. It's my wife and my daughter. Like, because we're such a good team, like we complement each other so well, we put in a lot of work to get where we are now. Right. So I was doing GoFull Automation part-time and while I was fully employed, and that was from even before March, like really February. March is when I incorporated the company until June, because it was late June that I decided, okay, I'm going to quit my job because we have some financial stability that can keep us going, and therefore I'm not going to make any stupid mistakes because we urgently need the money. Right. And so her support through that, but even way before, was like, this is why I want to do it. And it's not like we live a lavish lifestyle. We literally just go see our parents for vacation. That's literally what that we do. Our honeymoon was, we went to the south of France to go kite surfing, and my daughter was staying with her grandmother. Right. But we were all living in the same Airbnb. Right. So yeah, all that to say that, we don't live a lavish lifestyle. We are comfortable, but I want us to be able to afford whatever we want, whether that is, music class, swim class, skiing / snowboarding for our daughter. Like just give them the same privileges that, we both had growing up.
Yeah. So that's an amazing motivation right there. Even though maybe it's not, motivation isn't the right word, but it's
a reason.
Reason.
It's my North Star.
Yeah, that's like a compass. So good. Do you foresee starting your own community? Maybe offering some courses, because a lot of people do it, and it seems to be like an amazing way to really leverage your skills, but also 10x, whatever it is that you make.
I've dabbled in the idea, and it's interesting. The thing is, my community would just be about Notion, because that's honestly what I could do every single day. Right. Like you can run your entire business just using Notion because it's an infinite tool. Like literally, you're only limited by your creativity.
What makes Notion so special? Let's talk more about Notion.
You want to? Okay.
This
is a dangerous path, man. I could talk about Notion all day.
Yeah, it's fine. So what is Notion and how does it make your life better?
Notion is a digital workspace. Okay. That is how I summarize Notion, right? Yeah. You can do almost anything in it. And why I say almost, the limits are, if you have an iPad and you want to write with your pen, you can't do that, at least for now. You also can't draw like you can in Miro. It's not an infinite canvas. But when it comes to creating fields, right, that you can do, but also embed notes in there, you can also do that. And what that means is you can pull information anywhere within Notion and create automations for it. And also leverage Notion AI, which has honestly gotten so good since its first inception, and also make API calls so integrates either Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, whatever. All within Notion, all by yourself. So once you integrate that with AnyDen or Make.com, the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
You know.
Give us an example of an amazing thing you've been able to achieve with Notion, so that people who just don't even have a concept of what can be done understand.
Okay. One of the first cool projects that I delivered was for the sports recruiter in the baseball world. We built a Notion app together where basically the problem that we were solving for is baseball coaches, when they go to a game, they want to be able to quickly take notes on a player, right?
Yeah.
But once they take those notes, it's not shared with the team, so with the other coaching staff. But also if they want to extrapolate or download that data online, because they have thousands of players or even just 100, someone would have to manually go in and type in the name, where they're from, so address, their position, their number, the team that they play for, their email address, blah, blah, blah. Now you take a screenshot, you upload it to Notion, you can download 100 to 10,000 of those players into your own database. You open the page, you click a button, you record it, it uploads directly to Notion, and it shares it with the entire coaching staff. So it's a one-stop shop for everybody to manage their player pipeline to then recruit them to college.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You did that.
We did that. Yeah, we did that. It was a team effort. Definitely.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah.
What is another cool project that you've done using your automation that's really helped the business and also helped you along the way? What is like an example of what GoFull Automation can do or has done?
Okay, so another one is a content creation, not a content creation pipeline, but more so the post-production pipeline, right? Where we're managing the freelancers, giving them visibility over their own tasks, but also for the post supervisor to see everyone's tasks and dispatch it accordingly, grant extensions if needed, by providing a summary of all of the deadlines, then also providing a financial report for the CEO, so either the talking head or whoever, to see the entire timeline and also the dollar value in terms of revenue and number of views per YouTube video.
So what were they doing before? How did you solve that problem?
Every single process was manual, and it's either in tools like Monday.com. It can be anything, but just not automated. It could have been even in Notion, so it's not to say under the tool is bad.
Better,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just to say that without any automation, you have to do everything manually. Change the status from, a random status is we've designed all of the elements to the elements are now done. Now it needs to go to review for the final editors. Same thing for scripting, same thing for production, right? Just automating that saves them so much time. And sometimes it's even worse than that. It's all in disparate Google Sheets, right? So there's no data cleanliness. Like for example, if you type 1, 2, 3 and you put in an A by accident, and you try to do a sum of everything, you're gonna get an error, right? But in Notion, you have, because it's a database and not a spreadsheet, it allows you to have specific data fields so that you don't have those kind of errors. And all these small quality of life changes that you may not necessarily realize actually have a big impact on the business.
Yeah, that's really cool. Can you tell us a bit more about this new project that you're working on now? Because it's a really big project.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Tell us more about what issue are you solving for them, and how you think you're gonna go about it.
That's a really good question. So the issue that I'm solving is Salesforce currently, the way that it's implemented, is underutilized in terms of its capacity and in terms of the communication around it. So Salesforce is a tool that allows you, it's a CRM, right? At the end of the day, that's what it is. But if you don't have processes in place in terms of capturing customer information, but also in terms of what happens after that, in terms of updates and so on and so forth, it can lead to a lot of bottlenecks and a lot of problems. And the way that my new client is using it now is as a Google Sheets.
Okay.
So that is hugely underleveraged. And I'm coming in basically to ask the right questions, guide them in terms of how they see it working best for them, and me bridging the gap, the communication gap between the technical teams and the business, so that they can use it, as they see fit.
Yeah, I'm still baffled by all the things you can do with AI and all the. Have you done some scraping for businesses as well?
I've done it for myself. I will start offering it to clients.
Yeah, I think it's incredible. Yeah, I've seen people, even Nick, do it in a way that's it's amazing. Really, like scraping information, putting it into a sheet, and then using it, for instance, to write personalized emails for outreach. I think that's just so clever. And I can only imagine how much and how long it used to take for people to do that. And now you can do it in like 10 minutes.
At the click of a finger. Yeah.
10 minutes. That's incredible. So what's another exciting project that you worked on with GoFull Automation, another service that...
So on a real exciting project that I worked on, which was a huge unlock for me in terms of my lead magnets, was another Notion project for a brand company that leverages AI, right? So they come in and they embed their brand identity within an AI model so that when they chat with it, it spits out an answer either for PR or for whatever public relations matter in the tone of that company, right? Honestly, the CEO of that company does amazing work. I love her vision. It was amazing working with her. But the project was basically building a back end that allowed her to upload all of her prompts and then create websites in Notion at the click of a button using a template for her different avatars, right? So it could be for CEOs specifically. It could be for CFOs also, because that's different kind of wording, different kind of templates that they need, but also for executive assistants also. So that was the project that we work on. And I was like, wait. What I've just built is one database and I can dispatch it to everybody, to whoever I want with the click of a button. In my business, I want to generate lead magnets and distribute it really quickly so that I can just test a bunch of different offers out for different verticals. Okay. Tack. Done in a day. Now I can whatever I build, I can turn it to a lead magnet, send it to 100 or 1,000 prospects. They test it out for free. And if they want to implement it, I already have the solution built for them.
Yeah, you don't have
so
to
that
redo
is
it. Yeah.
that is the productized service that Nick preached about in terms of scaling your business from 25K and to above, right? Because I think that is the bottleneck that I'm currently at. I have, 2 big returning clients that take up most of my time, and I can't take on any more custom projects.
Right.
So it's really narrowing down the problem and delivering it at scale, where I have already resolved the 80%, and the 20% is just minor tweaks for their business.
Yeah, that's when you're really killing it, because you're literally just doing the same thing, right? Just tweaking it here and there, and just printing that money, baby. That's really good. I think the Nick's program and other programs like that are really good, really helpful, because I think we are in a place now where it's really going to become a creator economy, especially with AI in general. I think as individuals, we have to be able to create, and I think this is what AI allows us to do. You can do so many things on your own. It is a tool, but I think that being able to use those tools to create and to provide services, I think that's really where the future is. Because I wonder, like, what do you study now? You know what I mean? Because things are moving so fast. So, what do you go to school for now? I'm just wondering, you know what I mean? I'm sure this can still do everything, but if you were going to school for computer science, and you were in school for like 4 years and this is your last year, it's almost like so much of that is not going to be as relevant right now, So I'm not going to say that in a negative way, but I do feel like there's an element of that, So then how do people, I just wonder, how do people approach that now, and how do you foresee the future? Because that's the way that I'm seeing it, because it seems like, it's just things are moving so fast and changing so rapidly, even within the automation. I mean, you used to have to just do everything manually, like module by module, and you're still doing it. But I think within the next 6 months to a year, you just have to just write prompts and just say what you want, and it just does it for you. How do you see the next generation navigating it? What do you think the future of work is? Because I'm very curious about that.
I don't want to say a painful point. It's a very interesting one. It's, what is the point of school, right? And honestly, it almost doesn't matter what you learn. It matters that you learn how to learn.
Right.
That is honestly how I see the benefit of school. I don't use anything that I've learned from my biochemistry studies, but having the scientific mindset allows me to come in and see a problem, spot it, and ask the right questions without necessarily having any idea of what is going to happen in the end, right? I may have one, but I'm going to do everything to make sure that my idea is wrong. And if it is right, it's because I've tested every single thing to make sure that it is right, right? How do I foresee the future of work? It is what you said. And I think I understood what you were saying in terms of, it's a creator economy. And that is basically adding value.
Yeah.
But the way to do that is to have a voice, right? Like, we are all unique individuals and we all have something to bring. We all have something to deliver. And sometimes because you were either shy or, you're a bit reluctant or you're scared of being judged, you kind of dim your light. You should never do that. You should always take that leap. For example, for my content creator clients, it was an Upwork app that I sent and I almost didn't send it. So that $750 job has now led to an $8,000 recurring monthly revenue for a job that I almost didn't send because I wasn't 100% sure that I knew how to do it, because Notion didn't have client portals all the time. And that was 200 hours of work that I put in to build a custom client portal for them.
I gotta bet on yourself as well, right? You gotta
100%.
You gotta bet on yourself, because I think sometimes we're our worst enemy. We can do anything really. We can push ourselves to achieve anything, but also we can also limit ourselves. So you have to keep betting on ourselves and choosing.
But it goes back to what you said about joining the right community and all that stuff. If you follow someone that you gravitate towards because they have traits that you don't, with time, you just inherently, absorb those, and it becomes a part of you in your own way,
Yeah, I think it's so important to be a part of a community, because I think you learn from people who are different from you, who have other skills, but you also realize what's possible, right?
Yeah.
You're not just in your head thinking, oh, can I do this? You're actually seeing other people who are different levels. Some may just be a step ahead from you, or 2 steps, and others may be 10 steps ahead of you. Talking to them, you're seeing what they're doing every day. And then you hopefully have a good community where you have good classes and good courses where you're actually just taking the steps. You realize, all right, it's fine. I don't know what this is, but let me just take one step at a time. And then you're slowly progressing. So I think I'm just fascinated by the whole just school thing, but also maker school within school. But also just the future of how things are going to be done, moving forward. Because I feel like we used to spend, if you think about back in the day, I'm talking about like even hundreds of years ago, you started very young doing one thing, and you had to perfect it for 30 years before you could be an expert. Then we went into going to school for however long, 7 years, 10 years, 12 years, to learn something and then becoming an expert. Now, because there's so much information out there, I feel like now you can just focus your time on like developing a skill or 2 skills or 3 skills, and then leveraging that, because I just think what you can do now is incredible, and the world is your oyster because everything is online. I don't know, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but it just seems like, just one thing, I remember during COVID, I was reading about this lady who, she was an expert in Excel, and she was working for a company, and COVID happened, and so she wasn't working. So she started putting videos out on what she knew about Excel, and then companies started hiring her just for Excel courses, and then she became like,
she blew up.
Because she had access to not just her one company she was working for, she had access to hundreds of companies, and they all asked for the same kind of they had the same problems to solve. So she just created courses or created solutions, just like what we spoke about earlier, and she was able to leverage that to make an incredible amount of money, which is kind of like what you were talking about earlier. So like, you're able nowadays to not be an expert in all those things, have 7 masters and 3 PhDs. You can just leverage a few skills that you're very good at, and because there are so many people out there, so many businesses, you don't just have to speak to people in London or in the US or Canada. You can really speak to people all over the place, and you can really leverage that. And that's such an interesting, different way of looking at things. I think it kind of boggles your mind, at least it boggles mine, in terms of how we were kind of raised, in the world we were raised in, you know what I mean? Like, you go to school, you learn these skills, and you work for this one company for however long, and and that's great, but I feel like we live in such a different world now that so much is possible.
Two things that really resonate with what you just said. It's, if you know what you love when you're young, you have such an advantage over everyone.
That is true.
Like
in everything. That's why
everything.
I've spoken to a lot of artists,
Mhm.
and I think that's one thing that, especially the ones that become very successful, they
Mhm.
usually have that love very early on.
Yeah.
And when you do have the right structure to support it, that's an amazing thing, you know. But yeah, please continue.
Then the other one, I think the other one just slipped my mind as you were talking, but it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, so yeah, because we were talking about the future of work and the fact that now you can just focus on one or two skills.
Yes, it was the one or two skills.
Yeah.
So yes, focusing on one skill can make you a great employee.
Yeah.
But I find to start a business, you need at least two skills. Like one that is getting leads, because if you don't have leads, you don't have a business. And then it's actually the fulfillment. So
Right.
you need those two skills, right? And kids nowadays, you know, they're not shy in front of the camera, so they can. Starting a business may not be very difficult because it can just naturally come to it, right? So yes, focusing on one particular trade gives you a huge advantage, but then learning the business side of things, man.
Absolutely.
Like if I could go back, I would probably not even go to university. I'll probably just become an electrician or something to do with real estate, because everybody needs a home, right? Like everybody needs a home. So learn one of those trades, start a business, and I mean, you have endless job. If you show up on time, do good work, you know, those are the keys.
Yeah.
Those are the keys to success. So yeah, when you say one or two skills, I 100% agree, like really honing down. But I think the more skills that you have, the more doors open up to you.
Right.
But when you're starting off, is just focusing on narrowing down, again, signal to noise on those one or two that allows you to level up.
Yeah. It's yeah. And when I mean one or two skills, I think, I mean, yes, you're right, but I'm also speaking about, like, I remember I grew up with a lot of people who encourage, and it's a good thing as well, you know, but who encourage to have multiple, you know, masters, and who had all these
You're
different
talking
things.
about the academic sense
Yeah.
of things. Yeah,
And-
okay.
Yeah, and they could do all these different things, and you know, you looked at their resume and it was like, I can do this and I can do that and I can do this and I can do that, and it's wonderful. But I find it incredible that in today's world and the way things are now, you can just do one thing, and it's not the only thing that you can do, but it's the one thing that you're an expert in. And of course, there are the other things around it, like the business skills and all the things that you need to have to be able to have a business. But it's incredible that, like, I do automation, you know, and like that's what I do, and that's, you know, that's it. It's sufficient to make someone so much money, as opposed to, you know, like, just to be a doctor, you had to spend so many years to get your bachelor's, then you have to go to medical school, you have to study for 7-8 years, then you have to spend another 4 or 5 years to become what's the word, after medical school, to become
Like an actual doctor, you mean? Or
yeah, it's because like there's the general doctor, and then there's
like a specialization.
yeah, exactly. All this time, which is incredible, you know. But nowadays it's like, oh, you're meeting, just hearing about these people like 23, 24 like building an app.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
It's like, it just baffles me in terms of like where we are and what's possible and what can be done in this age. And it seems like it's a wild west. There isn't, because everything is so new, especially with AI and vibe coding and all that stuff. It's fascinating to me what's possible, and I just wonder how it's gonna affect the world and young people right now. What are they thinking? What are they consuming? What are they doing? You know,
we could open up that conversation.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy to go there, because so I have a 2.5-year-old, and I think about this quite often. The thing that scares me more than AI is the social media aspects side of things, right? So just access to a phone. And I read something that really amazed me the other day. It was, okay, they gave their teenager a phone, but the only rule that they have is they have to go to bed with the phone in another room. Because the Instagram, Facebooks, YouTubes, their algorithms are in place so that if you're sleeping with that phone in your room, you are gonna doom scroll.
yeah,
And it's not the kid's fault, it's not the parents' fault, because I am also guilty of that, right? Like, I just inherently came to the point where I'm sleeping with my business phone in the room for my alarm clock, which has no social media on it, right? I don't get any text messages except for phone calls from clients or what have you. And so I can't do anything with it. It's literally like an old school phone that happens to be connected to the internet, but it's not my main phone where I have all my contacts and WhatsApp messages. So I was like, yeah, I naturally fell on that, but I never thought about it in the context of discipline for my daughter. Like, hey, if you learn how to sleep without the phone in your room when you come of age, and we decide to give you a phone, no idea when that's going to be, but we'll figure that out. You are still you are enjoying the benefits of being part of the modern world, but also having that discipline so that you are not, necessarily wasting precious time. And I'm not saying that you should never do it. Obviously, there's a time and a place for everything. But just knowing that you need to get out of that doom trap so that you can fulfill your hopes and dreams. Now, in terms of where AI is going, obviously it's, if you read some security concerns about it, then yes, it does have some detrimental effects. And I'm not necessarily using it in that case. I'm only using it for business purposes. Like in my personal life, I don't use AI at all, actually. Like it's maybe just to help me translate a document from English to German because we moved to the German-speaking part of Switzerland. So AI has been amazing for that. But otherwise, it's only just for business purposes that I use it. So yes, you can do so many things, but that's actually like, what are you going to use it for?
Right.
Are you going to use it in a constructive way, or are you going to go down necessarily a rabbit hole that is not as conducive for productivity or your own well-being?
Yeah. I mean, after all, it's a tool. It's how you use it.
Exactly.
Because there have been instances of people using it for therapy and having some issues. Even though I can also see it being beneficial when it comes to that. But anyways, hey, this is where we are. It's an incredible world. This has been amazing to get to know you, Jody, a bit more about your
Kossim.
and your.
It's been a dope conversation, man.
Thank you so much for coming all the way here. I feel like we need to do this again, and especially when you're back at when you're at 80K a month.
Let's do it. Speaking into existence. Let's do it.
You can tell us more about your success and how you've managed to do that and what you learned along the way. I'm sure a lot of people will learn from this conversation and just to encourage them to get into AI a bit more, see what's possible, because he's been able to scale it to 20K a month within a few months. So I think anyone can do it, even though we're not as smart as you are. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kossim. Really appreciate this opportunity, man.
Yep.
Take care of yourself, man.
Yeah.